Ever since the Dwight Howard trade, the Orlando Magic have not gotten anywhere. Many years ago, they made a massive commitment to 3 specific players: Nikola Vucevic, Aaron Gordon, and Evan Fournier. As of now, they're the 3 highest paid players on the team, combining to make over $61 million in the 2021 season. In fact, for a long time, they've been the team's highest paid players, and basically, the franchise went all in on this trio. Unfortunately, they've hit a wall. Specifically, Gordon and Fournier, who haven't really gotten better in a long time. Vucevic has, but not to the point where he could do it by himself. Since 2013, the year after Dwight's departure, the Orlando Magic have had 5 draft picks within the top 6 of the draft. Some of them got traded, others have stagnated, some unfortunate injuries happened, combined with a very questionable player development process. Plus, the lack of free agent signings. It's been a huge discombobulated mess. It's been nearly a decade since they traded away Dwight, and yet their heads are barely above water. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today, let's talk about the lackluster Orlando Magic. In fact, I made a video about the Magic over 2 years ago. That was covering their timeline up until 2018. So in this video, I'm only gonna quickly cover the years between 2013 to 2018, but the bulk of the video will be about their recent years since 2018. Alright, let's begin. A year after the Dwight Howard trade, the Magic were absolutely awful. Calling this era a, quote, rebuilding phase is generous. They were straight up tanking. Fortunately, they were granted with the second pick of the 2013 class. Victor Oladipo was a well-known name coming out of Indiana, and the pick was seen as a great choice. However, the organization could not capitalize on Oladipo's talents, and soon you'll realize that this became a trend. The Magic's player development has been criticized for years, and it's a fair criticism. There's been no other team in the league with so many high draft picks, yet contributed so little to the team they got drafted to. From 2013 to 2018, here's their list of draft choices. The thing is, they aren't even that bad at drafting. Some of them, namely Oladipo and Sabonis, developed into All-Stars, but they did so on other teams. There were some duds here and there, including a god-awful trade. On draft night of 2016, the Magic traded away Sabonis, Ersan Ilyasova, and Victor Oladipo for Serge Ibaka, who stayed on the team for just half a season. I know Oladipo was struggling at the time, and that's mostly because he was playing out of position because the coaches had no idea what to do with him. And also, Sabonis was still a complete unknown, but still, even when the trade happened, it was pretty bad. In hindsight, it looks even worse, because Ibaka never wanted to be there. He visibly and publicly expressed his frustration, and eventually the team was forced to trade him away for Terrence Ross. Essentially, the Magic traded away 2 future All-Stars for freaking Terrence Ross. This trade set them back for years. To make matters worse, there was no consistency whatsoever, from the players' minutes to the coaches and management. I mean, they've had 5 different coaches in 6 years. If you compare the Magic's rebuild to, let's say for example, the Sixers' rebuild, both teams started around the same time, but unlike the Sixers, who gave the bulk of their minutes to their young prospects to develop, the Magic gave way too many minutes to washed-up veterans. For example, Mario Hezonja would get fewer minutes than Jody Meeks, and Maurice Harkless got fewer minutes than Willie Green or Channing Frye. When they acquired Tobias Harris from Milwaukee, it was seen as a steal. But they gave up on him way too quickly, despite his progression, and then traded him away in another terrible deal. It was 5 or 6 years of utter chaos. Everything they did, it was like they took 1 step forward and 2 steps back. That started to change in the 2018-19 season. That season, while the rest of the roster remained stagnant, Nikola Vucevic made a massive jump. He averaged career highs across the board and made his first ever All-Star team. New head coach Steve Clifford proved to be a great fit. At his hiring, Magic president Jeff Weltman stated, Steve is widely regarded throughout the NBA community as an elite coach and developer of players at all stages. His teams have always been disciplined and prepared, and have embraced the concept of playing for each other. They saw immediate success, a staggering 17-win improvement over the previous season. At this point, things were looking good. They just had their first winning season since Dwight Howard's departure, their first playoff appearance since 2012. And for the first time, it looked like they had a bona fide star, a go-to guy in Vucevic. Defensively, that's where they made their biggest jump, as their length and speed proved to be troublesome for unexpecting teams. Unfortunately, what looked like to be a promising turnaround, it went stagnant quite fast. Apparently, their peak is Game 1 of the playoffs, where they stunned the higher-seeded team, before everyone figures them out. That's the funny thing, the Magic looked like they had tremendous potential after the 2019 season. Perhaps maybe even a 50-win team in the near future. However, after that promising year, they haven't made the jump we expected. In fact, they regressed to their former selves. Their player development, an aspect that Steve Clifford was praised for, has looked very suspect, considering their recent draft choices haven't done much at all. For Jonathan Isaac, he gets a pass because of injuries, I guess, but Mo Bamba looks like he's going in the way of Mario Hezonja, a super hyped young prospect who clearly is not living up to his potential. Not only that, but this is the same thing the Magic were heavily criticized for before not giving their young guys enough minutes. It seems to be the case again. Mo Bamba's minutes throughout the season have decreased. Even with injuries hampering much of the Magic's roster, the young Bamba still isn't getting much playing time. A reporter asked Coach Clifford, and he explained the reason for that. Vooch is playing at an all-star level. Khem Birch is not just good, he's having a terrific year. He's right. The center spot is the strongest point for the Magic, and Bamba just isn't good enough. Then again, maybe they should have drafted someone else in 2018. They had a chance to get Colin Sexton at number 9. Right now, he'd be the perfect fit on the Magic, as they desperately need more perimeter threats. Anyway, the 2019-20 campaign was miserable, but because the bottom of the East is so bad, the Magic still somehow made the playoffs, and once again lost in 5. This brings us to right now, 2021, where once again the Magic are headed towards a losing record. The dream of improving after that successful 2019 year is looking grim, and overall, this post-Dwight rebuild has been an absolute disaster. Every time something good happens, it vanishes quickly, like when they acquired Markelle Fultz, a guy who the Sixers gave up on. But he seemed to be getting into the zone in Orlando, until he tore his ACL. In fact, the team had a 6-2 record while Fultz was playing. It's gone downhill ever since then. Over the years, we were always very patient with the Orlando Magic. They've always seemed like a team that could get it together eventually. They had the draft picks, including many high lottery picks, they had a decent front office, but with a multitude of bad trades combined with their players hitting a wall, plus not many free agents wanting to sign there, they've been stuck in a never-ending cycle, and their team might be blown up in the near future. Once their contracts are up, I can't see any of them being back. Remember how we used to thought Aaron Gordon was the next Blake Griffin? How we were all mesmerized by his athleticism and physical prowess and versatility. While he still shows flashes of what he could be, he never put it all together. Evan Fournier made massive jumps in his first couple years, and I remember all the praise he got back in 2016 or 2017. He looked like one of the rising young shooting guards of the future. I mean, even today, he's not bad by any stretch. Just not the franchise shooting guard they hoped he could become. Maybe it's because the lack of motivation, but more so because it's the coaching. Offensively, in every aspect, they've always been mediocre. Not terrible, but always in the bottom half of the league. They have absolutely no offensive identity whatsoever. It's always been very rigid and stale, hence why it's pretty predictable in the playoffs. However, things like this happen sometimes. You invest your future into a player or multiple players, yet they don't become as good as you think. Is there still a possibility for this core of players to make a deep playoff run? Most likely not. Once their contracts expire, this team will go back to the drawing board and rebuild from scratch. Maybe see how Jonathan Isaac and Mo Bamba develop, if they do. For now, they're playing the waiting game, and that's all they can hope for. Anyway, that's all folks. That sums up the Magic's post-Dwight era, and as you know, it hasn't gone too well. In nearly a decade, they still haven't compiled any semblance of a competent roster. We've seen short bursts of what they can do, the latter half of 2019 being the prime example, but there's been no continuity on a team that still has no identity. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.